Hi, welcome to our winter webinar series, Get to Know St. Anne's Episcopal School. Tonight, I have three folks joining me who work directly with our students, faculty, and parents on guiding students to experience success at St. Anne's. I'd like to introduce you to our team. We have Lisa Bloomfield, Director of Student Learning, Pillai Payne, our Mental Health and Wellness Counselor, and Jessie Hushin, our Learning Specialist. I'm going to jump right in and ask each of our team members here to tell you a little bit about their role at St. Anne's. Lisa, let's go ahead and start with you.
Hi, well, as Val said, I am the Director of Student Learning. I serve teachers and students in grades preschool through 8. I oversee support needs, working with teachers in collaboration in terms of best practices in the classroom and providing for their students in a differentiated and individualized manner. I also take care of our related services coordination with Pillai and our speech therapist who's contracted through our local school district. And I have a great team in Jessie Hushin, who is working primarily with 5th and 6th grade, although she is a part of lower school, in order to best meet the needs of the students at St. Anne's.
Thanks, Lisa. Jessie, can you tell us a little bit about what you do with the students?
Sure. So as Lisa has already explained a little bit, I collaborate with the teachers to best meet the needs of the students. I also work with our 5th grade team a lot to ensure that their transition from lower school to middle school is the smooth one for them. No, it's an adjustment. It's a new format in terms of going from one teacher to multiple teachers, and there's different needs that come with that. So I meet with them twice a week for study skills and help them with some of those just developing strong work habits. I also do some math support in the lower school.
Great, thanks, Jessie. So Pillai, St. Anne's, we talk a lot about the wellness of children. We talk about educating the heart, mind, and body. Can you talk to us a little bit about how your role fits in to this team of supporting students and families?
Yes, so I really focus on making sure that children are, doing well as far as their mental health. So anything from emotional regulation to grief or loss in the family, to children that suffer with, maybe ADHD or different type of issues, we really want to help them. We want to create, behavioral plans if needed. If a child is dealing with anxiety, we want to make sure that we have them understand what's going on and help them to be successful in the classroom environment.
Thanks, Pillai. Lisa, we often get questions from parents. I know in my role in enrollment management, families will call and share that their child maybe has an IEP at their school or a 504 accommodation plan, and they'll wonder, how does that fit into what we do at St. Anne's? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. While St. Anne's as an independent school does not keep formalized IEPs, we do honor the process of identifying students with learning differences or different learning challenges, and we try our best to accommodate those needs just as an IEP or a 504 would. We do not have a dedicated special education staff, so there are some things that are out of our scope, but we make every best effort to review every IEP or existing 504 plan that comes in through our admissions process, and we consult with one another. We talk to parents. We do school visits. We do what it takes to ensure that we can best meet the needs of those students. We have several students throughout our school who are on learning plans that would be considered, if they were in a public school setting, they would be considered 504 plans or accommodations of an IEP.
Great. And are there things that you do or the team does to assess the different learning needs of students?
Absolutely. So if we're talking about our students who are already in our school, part of our student body, those assessments are very organic. Teachers are constantly assessing students throughout the year, and we have a referral process, a support referral process in place where a teacher can start documenting any student challenges or needs, and sort of put it out there that they're watching the student, that they're providing support in the classroom, that they're connecting with parents on maybe what some challenges are, and then we move through that process as need be. And should a student need something more, we might do some in-house assessments. We might recommend some testing outside of St. Anne's. Through different avenues, and we do our best to support students in their learning while they are with us, either in the classroom, in a pull-out process, in small groups, in a myriad of ways. We try to support the students as best we can during that time.
Thank you. So once you've identified what the students' needs are, Jessie, can you talk to us a little bit about what that support might look like at the different developmental stages?
Yeah, so I think one of the really nice parts about St. Anne's is that support can be very flexible. So there are situations where it might be best to push into a classroom. So, as a support provider, I might be pushing in during math, or Mrs. Bloomfield might be pushing in during reading and providing support in the classroom with either one student or maybe a small group of students, depending again on the need. There's also situations where it might benefit the student to work with a support provider in a one-on-one setting outside of the classroom. And so we have the flexibility to do that. There's also situations where maybe a student might benefit from both. And so we can provide both levels of support. And as I said, that's flexible in the sense that, as a student starts to make progress or show mastery in one area, we might be able to pull back on some of that support in one way and provide more of a push in support as opposed to pull out. So it really is very flexible. Every situation is different, and we sit and consult with the teachers and look at that as we determine what the best avenue for support would look like for an individual student.
Great, thank you. Palay, what would that look like for a student perhaps needing some emotional support?
So that could look many different ways, depending on what they need. Some children we do take out, and we'll have, we'll do therapy sessions with them, and we'll really focus on cognitive behavioral therapy, because that's what I'm trained in, and motivational interviewing, and even some ACT, acceptance and commitment work to kind of help them get through some of the emotional issues that might be preventing them from being as productive in the classroom as they can be. Now, if we have a child that's showing some more emotional regulation issues, we might also go into the classroom, observe what the issues are, and create a plan to help the teacher, the parents, and the child kind of learn to regulate themselves. We have other things that we do as well, but those are kind of the main two things that we do to kind of provide help for children that are struggling in the classroom because of an emotional issue or just regulation issues.
Great. It sounds like the kids get a lot of support and are surrounded by both their teachers as well as your team. Can you talk to us a little bit about the communication with parents? Lisa, maybe you could start with us in terms of how the conversations are structured to loop parents in and get them to be a part of the process as well.
Sure. The collaboration and the partnership that teachers and parents have is crucial. It's vital for the success of the students. And so we really value the input from parents, the support from parents, and just overall collaboration with parents. Because our teachers are in constant contact with parents, they communicate in various ways, either through, maybe a weekly newsletter, maybe through a platform like Seesaw or Google Classroom. Parents can be kept up to date and aware. But also when there are specific student needs that are beyond just the general information of the classroom, the teacher will have communicated with the parent well in advance of report card time. And at times I'm called in, or Jessie or Palai, we are invited to join these parents and to be a part of the conversation surrounding their students or their child's success. And that communication piece doesn't fade out. We are communicating about success and challenges on an ongoing basis throughout the child's time at St. Anne's.
Great, thank you. We've talked a lot and focused a lot on kids maybe that are struggling or areas where there might be some gaps. What about the other side of the spectrum? So what happens if you have a child in a classroom who needs a little bit more of an academic challenge? Can you talk a little bit about what that looks like? Maybe Jessie, you could speak to that a bit.
Sure. So I think, again, this goes back to the whole idea that we are in constant communication with the teachers, right? And so just as a teacher might identify a student who is struggling, they would also reach out to us and identify students that maybe are in need of a challenge. And that would be a conversation we would have. I think in many classrooms, you'll find teachers that have planned extension activities beyond just what the general lesson is. And so teachers are constantly thinking about ways they can extend and push students beyond, or students that are ready for a challenge.
Great. That's really good to hear, because I know that in some cases students need a little bit more, and we want to ensure that everyone is engaged at all times. Let's talk a little bit about your support of the faculty. So I know there's a lot of work that happens behind the scenes, and I often talk with parents about how teachers differentiate instruction. But if you're not an educator by training, the concept of differentiation might not be something that you're fully aware of. Lisa, can you talk a little bit about what differentiation looks like in the classroom? So how students might be supported, not necessarily by your direct intervention, but by what's happening in the classroom with the teacher.
Yes, I would like to give a lower school example of that. And I think Jessie really could give an example at the middle school level. As a matter of fact, we've been talking about that quite a bit lately. And so, for example, at the lower school level, what differentiation would look like is a classroom of first graders who are all on different levels of reading. Some are emerging, some are reading, some need more of a challenge, and all of that is okay in first grade. Children develop at such different rates, and at those early levels, especially during literacy development, we need to respect that and understand that and meet them where they are, so that they can fulfill their full potential throughout that school year. So differentiation in first grade might look like me consulting with the first grade teacher and talking about where those students are entering in on their level of phonics, being able to sound out words, very basic skills, and coaching the teacher to look at those students who are still emerging as sounding out 3-letter words. And on their spelling, they may have to be able to write correct spellings for 3-letter words. Maybe they have six words that they need to write. On the flip side of that, as a part of differentiation, there may be students who are able to use 4- and 5-letter words, maybe beginning and ending blends. For example, maybe they're writing the word stamp with ST at the beginning and MP at the end. whereas the other student may only be writing a 3-letter word like sat. Teachers differentiate in terms of what they're doing in that they meet the students where they are and take them as far as they can. It's not a one-size-fits-all. And when I meet with teachers, that's what we talk about. What can we do for these different groups of students and have them all be successful in their classroom? I think Jessie, though, I really would like her to speak to 5th grade in terms of what students need in as far as differentiation goes, maybe in assignments or in homework or things like that.
Yeah, so when I think of 5th grade and differentiation, again, differentiation can look so many different ways. Thinking of a language arts class, a 5th grade language arts class, where maybe students are writing a response to something they've read. Maybe for some students, they need sentence starters or sentence stems, right? To help kind of help them understand the framework of what that response should look like. So for some students, they might get 2 or 3 sentence starters, whereas other students are asked to look at a completed model and reproduce that completely independently, right? In language arts, we might have students who maybe written expression is something that's more challenging for them. We have, technology is a wonderful thing. We have voice typing as a resource, that some students can use. When I think of math, one of the math classes that I push into, one activity we did earlier this year, they were working on division. We were working on like 2 and 3 digit numbers divided by single and double digit numbers. Well, we had set up around the room, there were different division problems. Some were more challenging than others. And students had the choice to kind of pick and choose how they wanted to circulate the room. So they were allowed to kind of pick and choose how they pick and choose, I guess, according to their comfort level in terms of how they felt with that skill. And so, all of those are different ways that we can differentiate in the middle school.
Thank you, guys. Palai, how about with regard to techniques and strategies that the teachers might be able to use in the classroom? So not necessarily children that would see you on a one-on-one or small group basis, but things that they might be able to do in the classroom. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, so we do professional developments, kind of talking about de-escalation skills and different ways to interact with children that can be helpful. One of our goals is to be trauma informed because we don't know what everyone has been through, right? And so we always want to come through that lens and give our teachers the skills to be able to work with our children in that manner. Other things we do as well is if teachers are struggling with a certain student, we will have consultation and talk to the teacher about maybe better ways that they can handle certain and different personalities, right? Everyone has a personality. I say some of our kids are future CEOs, so they might need to be treated a little bit differently, but still, as Lisa, says, set them up for success, right? And so we do offer a lot of resources for our teachers, sometimes just to even talk, right? To talk to us and to just come up with different ways to handle, of course, based in research, but different ways to handle students to help them and to even kind of help the student change some of their behavioral patterns that might not be so great in the real world, right? So we give all these resources because we really do want everyone to be successful. And we really do want to make sure that everyone is treated individually for what they're going through in the best manner.
Thanks, and that ties right into St. Anne's mission and our goal to make sure that each child is known, loved, challenged, and inspired. And I love how you all describe setting the kids up for success and using that positive encouragement. Can you talk a little bit more about how you work to build that message of a growth mindset with the students so that they feel as though it is a safe space to maybe make some mistakes, and also how you ensure that when they do have the additional support, that's something that doesn't necessarily make them feel targeted or singled out in any way.
Well,
Lisa, can you start on that one?
Oh, sure. Yes. So growth mindset is a really powerful and positive force for children as they age and mature and go through school and life, and it's such a strong message. And at St. Anne's, we believe in that wholeheartedly. At the early years, the early grades, the message about having a growth mindset is we talk about the power of yet. And we say, we don't know that yet. You don't know that yet, but you will. And so we encourage them to keep on trying until they achieve the yet and they say, yes, I can do this. It's so easy for students to give up when something is hard. I mean, let's face it, we don't like to do things that are hard for us. So in order to keep them motivated, there's a level of confidence building that needs to take place. And there's a level of, just presenting challenges that can be achieved that aren't out of their realm of, being able to accomplish something. It's not too hard. And at the same time, not providing things that are so easy that there is no opportunity to grow the mindset because a bright student has just things come naturally. So I really believe in the power of yet. And when a student says, I can't read, I say, well, you can't read these words yet, but you will be able to in time. I think the most important thing to foster a growth mindset is to continually show students where they were and how far they've come. So even at the very, very early grades, I will take out assessments or passages that students have read in September, and I will present them in December and say, you couldn't read this in September. Can you read this now? And in May, say, you couldn't read in September. Look what you're reading now. So I think all of that coupled together, it just fosters a real sense of achievement and therefore, the growth mindset develops.
Thanks. So it's equally important to celebrate the small successes as it is the big successes, isn't it? So as we wrap up the evening here, I'd love to just touch briefly on what your observations have been with students. St. Anne's has been in-person learning on campus, in addition to a few students who are participating in the distance learning program. But what have your observations been with regard to how the students are coping with the pandemic? Palai, maybe you can start and just talk to us about the emotional coping skills that you've witnessed.
Yeah, so clearly there's a lot going on in the world between the pandemic, political things, and a lot of kids do come to us and they are stressed, right? And wherever they're at, wherever their thoughts are, really teaching them how to deal with anxiety and building that resilience, building that grit is so important, right? And so what we see, right, is, us as adults, this pandemic is hard. Things that are happening in the world are very hard to deal with. And so giving them coping skills that they can use and that can be effective are really important. So if it's something like breathing, if it's something like doing anxiety work, whatever it is, we really do focus on trying to help them understand what anxiety is and what it looks like. Some kids are actually getting very, even sad. I don't want to call it depression, but sad about it. So like, what are some of the coping skills? What are some of the things that we go to? And then using them in real time, using them in the classroom, and really helping them. And even though it's not a great situation, these are life skills that we're giving them, and it's super important.
So important, because unfortunately this probably won't be the last hurdle that they face. Lisa or Jesse, is there anything else that you can add in terms of what you're seeing with the students academically?
In terms of just us being in our situation and learning outside. Is that what you're referring to, Valerie?
Yeah, and just what you've seen with the students in terms of coming back to being on campus, and they were away last spring. What have you noticed or observed about the return to school for the students this year?
Well, I think I can sum it up pretty nicely with a conversation that I had with a 4th grade student who said, before this year, I used to always hope for days off. I would hope there were snow days. I wanted breaks to be longer. I always wanted to have a day off from school. And he said, this year, I just want to be here. I just want to be here. And that's what I noticed. The joy when those students came back and they were able to see us and be with us was palpable at the beginning of the school year. And I think that their joy and love of learning and their adaptability is just astounding. And they are outside in those outdoor classrooms, and they've got snow pants and boots and jackets and gloves, and they are still learning to read, and they're doing math, and they're making use of the campus, and it's working. It's working for us. And and I will admit, I was skeptical, but they are thriving, and the teachers are working hard. They're working hard to make it happen. So I'm really proud. I'm really proud of our kids. I'm proud of our teachers, and I'm just overall very pleased with what I have seen St. Anne's do to rise to the occasion and meet this challenge of teaching students during this time.
Well, I think that's a great note to end on, and I think it really does sum up the commitment that St. Anne's has to student success. And so I want to thank you guys for taking the time to join me tonight and to share a little bit about the work that you do. I look forward to having more conversations like this so we can share with our families. If you're watching this recording, I invite you to come and see for yourself by touring our campus. Please give me a call or send me an email, and I'd be happy to arrange a time when you can see the magic that happens up close and personal. Thanks so much for joining us, and have a great night, everyone. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, Jesse. Thanks, Palai.